Good afternoon to all. Honorable Minister for Higher Education and Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Dr. K.T. Jalil. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mahatma Gandhi University.
School of Pedagogical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, in collaboration with Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, is organizing a 4-day national webinar on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary education, approaches and reflections from today onwards. There will be 4 sessions handled by eminent personalities covering various aspects of interdisciplinary education. Today, we are really honored and privileged to have Honorable Minister for Higher Education and Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Dr. K.T. Jalil, to inaugurate this webinar. Sir, this is an auspicious occasion to witness 2 organizations under the 2 ministries headed by your good self joining hands for an academic endeavor. We are really blessed by your kind presence. On behalf of Mahatma Gandhi University, Ministry of Minority Affairs and Organizing Committee, I extend you, sir, a warm welcome to this inaugural session of the webinar. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mahatma Gandhi University, and the chairperson of this inaugural function, Professor Dr. Sabu Thomas, is a renowned scientist in the field of nanoscience and nanotechnology. His contributions are acclaimed world over. Professor Sabu Thomas has got quite a large number of patents in his credits in the field of chemistry and nanoscience. At present, under his able leadership, Mahatma Gandhi University is gearing to new heights. Sir, you are the motivational force behind these series of webinars being organized by School of Pedagogical Sciences. On behalf of School of Pedagogical Sciences and the Center for Minority Youth, Kayankulam, and the Ministry of Minority Affairs, I extend you, sir, a warm welcome to this session.
Thank you.
Moideen Gutti AB, Director, Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, headed by the Minority Welfare Department. Kerala State Minority Commission, Kerala State Minority Development Finance Corporation, Madrasa Teachers Welfare Fund, coaching centers for minority youth are the functionaries under the department. It implements and monitors various welfare schemes and programs and scholarships for students. On behalf of the organizing committee and School of Pedagogical Sciences, a warm welcome to you, sir. The efforts of Dr. Saji Matthew, Principal of Center of Minority Youth in Kerala, Kayankulam, is commendable, especially in materializing this webinar. On behalf of School of Pedagogical Sciences, I welcome you, sir, to this session. We expect similar collaborative programs in the future too. Professor Dr. Babu P. Ramesh, Dean, School of Developmental Studies, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi, is with us today to talk on the topic Introduction to Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. Sir, a hearty welcome to you to this webinar. Other eminent resource persons for the coming days are Professor Dr. Kalpana Kandibaran, Professor Dr. N.C. Narayanan, and Dr. Jadish Kumar. Professor Kalpana Kandibaran is Professor and Regional Director, Council for Social Development, Southern Regional Center, Hyderabad. And Professor N.C. Narayanan is Professor, Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas, IIT, Mumbai. And Dr. Jadish Kumar is Assistant Professor, Center for the School of Social Systems, School of Social Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. I congratulate the organizing committee members and formally welcome to all these experts to this webinar. And to you, dear participants, you are our guests for the 4 days. I take this opportunity to express my deep sense of appreciation to Anandal and wish you a fruitful session and extend a warm welcome to Anandal. Thank you all. So I invite our Honorable Minister,
Honorable
Dr.
Vice Chancellor Sir,
Jalil,
Professor Sabu Thomas Sir for the presidential address.
So I request Dr. Jalil to inaugurate the conference and to deliver the inaugural lecture. Please.
Respected the dynamic Vice Chancellor of MG University, Professor Dr. Sabu Thomas, Professor Dr. Minikuti, Head of the Department, School of Pedagogical Sciences, and Dr. A.B. Moideen Guti, Director, Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, and other distinguished persons, those who are attending this national webinar. Dear students, teachers and friends. Firstly, I congratulate School of Pedagogical Sciences, MG University, and the Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, for organizing a national webinar on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary education, approaches and reflections. In today's world, no subject can stand alone. All are interrelated in one way or another. Interdisciplinary learning are more authentic and greater value than compartmentalized studies. Interdisciplinary learning is a planned approach to learning with users links across different subjects. The program aims to focus and strengthen interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary studies and research among students, academicians, and faculties. It also aims to give awareness among general public and academic community about the relationship and links between various subjects and diverse fields. The study of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research would improve the quality in research and vice versa, had to find creative solutions to challenging problems, local issues, and more accurate results. The interdisciplinary studies leads to meaningful learning, various ideas together, new knowledge in different disciplines, insight into various integrated concepts and ideas. To be truly educated, one must also make connections across the disciplines, discover ways to integrate the separate subjects, and ultimately relate what they learned. With these words, I conclude my speech and proudly inaugurate subject of the current time, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary education, approaches and reflections. Again, I congratulate School of Pedagogical Sciences in MG University and the Directorate of Minority Welfare. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Abu Thomas sir will deliver his presidential address.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Respected Dr. K.T. Jalil, a Minister of Higher Education and Minority Welfare. Our minister had to leave for another meeting, so he spoke first, inaugurated the meeting. And our distinguished speaker, the keynote speaker, Dr. Moidin Kuti, Director of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Professor Minikuti, the Director of the school, Dr. Ismail Tamarasheri, our distinguished guest speakers, Professor Kalpana from Hyderabad, Professor Babu Ramesh from Ambedkar University, Delhi, Professor Narayan from IIT Mumbai, Professor Radish Kumar from JNU, all my colleagues, participants for this wonderful webinar. Let me first congratulate the School of Pedagogical Sciences and Directorate of Minority Welfare in organizing a webinar on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary education approaches and reflections. So congratulations for the joint webinar. Personally, I like webinars and conferences. You know why? If you go for a webinar or a conference, you really understand the latest advancements. I remember when I was a PhD student at the Indian Institute of Technology, my boss used to send us, at least 3, 4, or 5 conferences in a year. I remember my boss used to attend all the international conferences, particularly he goes for American Chemical Society meeting. And he always, tell us, if you go for an ACS meeting, you understand the latest advancements. And second point of a conference webinar is, you meet lots of people. See, today we have speakers from JNU, from Hyderabad, from Delhi. You meet the stalwarts in the field. And you can make a lot of networking and collaborations. So I'm glad that the School of Pedagogical Sciences is organizing a large number of webinars and conferences on a regular basis. So congratulations to faculty members. Congratulations to the director of the school, organizing a series of conference webinars. And if you look at the title of today's meeting, it's very interesting. Interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary education. Probably you all know that my faculty members knew that I've been actually directing Nano Center for about 7 years. If you look at nanoscience and nanotechnology, it is truly interdisciplinary. We need to know chemistry, we need to know physics, we need to know biological sciences, we need to know mathematical sciences to understand nanoscience and nanotechnology, where these disciplines really integrate. Look at biotechnology. If you want to be a good biotechnologist, you have to really learn life sciences. You have to really learn biological sciences. You have to really learn engineering sciences. You have to really learn technology. So there are lots of subjects where several disciplines integrate. The best example is nanoscience and nanotechnology. Best example is biotechnology, where different disciplines they integrate. But if you look at transdisciplinary approach, transdisciplinary approach, what people do? The experts from different disciplines, they work together. They never integrate. They work together and create new concepts. create new theoretical framework, create new methodologies, create new translational innovation to address new problems, to find solutions to world's, pressing problems. For example, if you look at climate change, if you want to really address the problem of climate change, you need chemists, we need physicists, we need mathematicians, we need environmental chemists, environmentalists. So they all have to work together in a transdisciplinary mode to attack the problem of, the climate change. And I also like interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach. You know why? Because interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach provide us critical thinking. If you don't have that approach, you cannot have critical thinking. If you want to have innovative ideas, you need to have, interdisciplinary approach, transdisciplinary approach, where you have to break. Interdisciplinary approach means you have to break the boundaries. You have to break the walls. And if you want to have a holistic approach, you need to think in a transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary way. If you want to find out solutions for the world's pressing problems, you need to adopt interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach. Therefore, this conference has lots, this webinar has lots of implications. And I request everyone to be extremely active, listen to the speakers, talk, ask questions, understand the importance of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach. I'm sure these 4 days conference will be extremely beneficial to faculty members, students, all the participants. So I request you to be extremely active, listen to all the talks, and make this conference very, very successful. And I wish all the best for the conference and wish you all success. And thank you so much.
Professor Dr. Sabu Thomas, sir, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, for very motivating and inspiring words. Now we have the Dr. A.B. Medinkuti, Director, Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala. A.B. Medinkuti has no. Dr. Sibujin, Dr. Sibujin, not
join ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടോ സാറേ? Hello sir, myself Saji Matthew. Sir, Moidin sir informed that he is having some technical issues, so he will join later.
okay. Okay, dear participants, our keynote speaker will join later to the special lecture to interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary studies. The speaker will be by Professor Babu P. Ramesh, Dean, School of Development Studies, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon to all, especially Honorable Vice Chancellor of MG University, Dr. Sabu, and the other Saji from the institute. And I'm very happy that this particular webinar is being materialized, and there are participants from various institutions and disciplines coming together and to understand what is interdisciplinarity and all. And when it has we had a very good beginning for the seminar, where we could see that the minister who inaugurated the seminar, he was talking about this problem with compartmentalization, and he was also highlighting that no subject can be standalone during this period, because many subjects, they demand treatment from various disciplines. And the Vice Chancellor, when he was delivering his address, he has truly very aptly underlined that interdisciplinarity is the underlying concept behind subjects like nano sciences, nanotechnology, or when we study environmental studies or bioinformatics. All these areas we are using interdisciplinarity in a very detailed manner. So I am happy that the preliminary discussion has already been it was very fruitful for me to have a good beginning. But since it is a talk or since it is a class or an introductory lecture, I would like to have a kind of a different approach. Let me start with a story. And before I'm starting with the story, I would like to just confirm with Sibi and Saju, Saji, that whether my presentation will be shown when I am discussing, or shall I share from here? What is the arrangement?
So Sibuji Netto will share it.
Yeah. So that means you can make the preparation ready. Can you show the first heading slide? Then I'll start.
Sibu sir, please show the PPT.
Then whenever I want to change the slide, I will prompt you that you can go to the next slide and all.
Okay, no issues, sir.
Yeah. So can you just start? I'll begin with an anecdote. And that anecdote is not very directly related to the topic, but it is also very much related to the topic. I am just talking about an anecdote, which it's a story in which I am there. I experienced this thing when I was doing my MPhil at Center for Development Studies in Trivandrum. I did my MPhil and PhD from Center for Development Studies Trivandrum, and we had a canteen we even have a canteen in CDS Trivandrum, and we had a cook there. And usually I start my research methodology classes with this story. We had a cook in CDS, and he was very good at everything except in cooking. And he was he was an interesting person who used to know. Yeah, we don't have to go to the second slide. Keep the introductory slide like this only. No, we will go to the next one afterwards, after this story. So you can go to the previous slide. Yeah. So, this particular person, he was very good at practical jokes. So he will create some problem or other to everyone, and he will keep on troubling people by his simple, funny techniques and all. So when I joined CDS, I went to the canteen for a matchbox. For some purpose, I went to the canteen and asked him for a matchbox. So this particular person, I was not aware that he is very difficult character to deal with. So he told that, okay, why don't you go and collect the matchbox from inside the canteen? So I went and searched for the matchbox, but I couldn't find the matchbox. So I came and told him that, look, I couldn't find the matchbox. Can you help me? Then he told that, okay, no problem, sir. I'll immediately help you. And within no time, he collected the matchbox and gave it to me. Then this particular person asked me that, like, sir, what are you doing here? So since he was asking in a very simple way, and since he is a cook, I explained him in a very simple manner that I am doing research. So, and I was explaining what is research and all. By that time, he told that, no, please don't joke, sir. You are claiming that you are doing research, but you can't even search a matchbox. So that was his like comment. Later on, I came to know that he is a person who creates these kinds of troubles to most of the persons, customers in the canteen. But I still remember that story whenever I discuss about research. You know, in the discussion while Vice Chancellor was talking about this topic and while Minister was talking about this topic directly and indirectly, they were hinting that when we are dealing with practical problems and issues, what matters is not whether we are educated or whether we are masters in one discipline or something like that. What matters is that whether we are effectively, practically finding a solution to address that particular problem. So with this anecdote, let me begin the discussion. And I know that I have roughly around 1.5 hour time. So I am planning to wind it up in 1 hour 15 minutes time from now. So what I will do is that I have around 30 slides or something to share, but I will be just like spending more time on the first 1 or 2 slides. And after the first 2 slides are over, then it is very easy to quickly roll through the other, quickly go through the other slides and explain the things. Let me begin with, probably I have a advantage or disadvantage when I'm delivering my talks or delivering my classes. Whether it is advantage or disadvantage, I don't know. But I am trained as a primary school teacher. And I started my career in Kerala in 1987 as a primary school teacher. And I worked for around 7 years as a primary school teacher. So because of my training, probably whenever I explain things, I like to explain things in a very simple manner rather than complicating it into by using lots of jargons and all. So maybe because of that advantage or disadvantage, I'll start with simple examples. But we can connect these examples to arrive at the problem that we are dealing with. First and foremost, let me start with the concept of multiple realities. When we are discussing about multiple realities, we can connect all these things. You may think that we are talking about interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, but we are talking about multiple realities and all. So, but we will connect it. Let us first start with the concept of existence of multiple realities. Suppose you think that you are a student or you are a beginner, or think about a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old or 3-year-old small kid who is getting educated for the first time or learning for the first time. Ask that learner or beginner that what do he or she understand, what does she or he understand about the meaning of number 2. If you ask a small little kid what is the meaning of number 2, most probably the answer will be that number 2 comes after number 1. That will be the answer. But after some time, after some more learning, the kid will understand that number 2 comes also before number 3. And after some time, the same person will get a meaning that number 2 is the square root of 4. Or after some time, another meaning will be there. That means any number, if you are dividing it by half of it, you will get number 2. So you can see that for the same number 2, we could see that there are multiple meanings, and multiple meanings or multiple realities are coexisting. That doesn't mean that the first meaning of number 2 is not existing when you are getting a new meaning. In nature or in reality, what we could see that there are several meanings for the same thing. And when we are having several meanings, I have a request. There is a candidate, Mukta Bandari. Yeah, Mukta, your screen is continuously changing. Either you please keep it properly, or please switch off that video, because it's continuously there is some changes happening in the screen, and it's a request only. Sorry. You can see that. So the first meaning is this particular thing, and now coming to the second one, you can see that there can be different perspectives that are giving different meanings. Think about a situation where you will, suppose you think that like you are having a spectacles or a chashma, which has a yellow lens. Suppose if you are seeing things using a chashma or a spectacle with a yellow lens, what will be the color? Since there is not much either candidates can respond, or at least since there are so many people are there, I will give the answer also. If you are keeping the yellow chashma, yeah, it will be yellow. Somebody told that it will be yellow. And suppose you think that if you are seeing everything through this yellow chashma, the moment I got a response from the participants, my energy as a teacher has increased considerably, because of this particular work organization, like looking at a kind of a monitor and discussing, the thrill of teaching has considerably got deteriorated. Here there are 280 participants, but when we are discussing, even one or two sounds or one or two faces, nodding faces, that gives lots of happiness as a teacher. So let me come back to the example that if you are seeing things using a yellow chashma or yellow spectacle, you can see things, everything as yellow. Suppose you think that you are juxtaposing this with another lens. So another lens is that you are having a green lens, or green, not a green lens. You are juxtaposing a blue lens over the thing. So what will be the what will be the color now? Right now, you are juxtaposing it with a green lens. So, blue one, so it will be green, isn't it? Hello? Yeah. So I hope that you are hearing. So that means yellow and blue. Now it will be green. So now you think that you are keeping on adding one after another different chashmas. That means yellow, blue, and you are adding all the chashmas, all the lenses that is there in VIBGYOR, that is violet, indigo, blue, green, everything. So if you are adding all 7 lenses, what will be broadly the color? The color will be more or less similar to the actual color of the thing. It need not be fully the correct object you will be seeing with 7 lenses, but at least when you are theoretically, when you are keeping all these lenses together, probably you may be coming very closer to the actual color of the particular object. So you can see that when we are having different perspectives, we may get different meanings. And when we juxtapose perspectives together, probably the meaning will also change. Instead of this lens, you can bring in other examples also. For instance, if you have a political ideology, a particular political ideology, you will see things from a particular angle. Or if you are from a particular religion, or if you are from a particular group, probably you will think things in a particular perspective, because that is the perspective provided by the lens owned by you. So you'll be seeing things together. But if you are ready to accommodate other lenses, probably the meanings will keep on changing. I'll come to next topic, that is the problems of block thinking. You must have seen that in academic discussions and in many other discussions, we can see that people will keep on telling that I belong to a particular, for instance, if I am an economist, I think that economics is the superior most subject in social sciences, and I won't consider like sociology or history as a serious subject. Or if I am a physical scientist, if I am a proper life scientist or a physics person or a expert from chemistry, I may think that like I am the like my subject or my discipline provides me a proper understanding, and other disciplines are not very serious disciplines, or other disciplines are not in a position to provide certain kind of proper explanations. So this is a kind of block thinking that we are all in disciplinary silos. That means we are in a particular silo, and we may think that uh, uh, we may think that like we are in a kind of a disciplinary silo. We could also see that like now let us come to, so there is a issue of block thinking. So three concepts, or including the anecdote, I have covered four concepts. One is that the research, ultimate aim of the research is that whether practically we are in a position to provide a solution. Second thing, for same reality, or there can be multiple realities coexisting. The third one is that different perspectives will provide different meanings. And the fourth one is that many a times our disciplinary blocks are creating problems for understanding things. Can we come? Yeah, and we will come back to the first slide, this slide itself. Yeah, now come to the concept of discipline. You know, what is a discipline? The moment we are discussing about discipline, you know, certain things will come into our mind. For instance, whenever we are talking about discipline, we are talking about self-control, we are talking about something related to punishment, regimenting, imposing order. Teacher is a disciplined teacher means we are attaching some kind of connection to regimenting or imposing order or punishing or self-controlling. And the same thing applies to the disciplinary studies also. You know, there are Latin words disciplina, which means teaching and learning, and disciples, that is
Sir, can't hear.
sorry, in between something happened. So
Audible, sir.
where did I like up to what point you could hear? Did I start with the discipline?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll come. You know, so when we hear the discipline, discipline is some. Hello. Okay, Yasmin. Yeah. So you know, if there is any, if when we hear about this word discipline, normally we think about regimenting or imposing order and all. And in academic disciplines also, we can see that every discipline has a certain kind of regimentation, a certain kind of a perspective, and a certain kind of a set methods that is used for dealing a particular problem. So, you know, these are the introductory discussions. Let us go to the next slide, which is also introductory discussion. Next one. Next slide, please. Saji, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Audible, sir. You're audible.
Yeah,
Audible,
let's go to the
sir.
next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So now let me come to the three concepts or three or four concepts related to disciplinary approach. You know, first let us start with the issue of like what is disciplinarity. I want to use a very simple example which is not related to studies or research or something. Suppose you think that like had there been no corona issues and we are all sitting in a seminar hall, and I am delivering the talk and you are all sitting in the seminar hall. And suppose you bring that, so suppose if you are bringing like a carpenter into the seminar hall, and we just ask that carpenter to sit in the seminar hall for some time while I am teaching or while I am talking about disciplinarity and all. I am sure that the carpenter will not be giving any attention to the talk that I am delivering, because carpenter is not. Am I not audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
You are audible, sir. Very well audible. Because somebody has sent a message telling that it is not audible, but you know, suppose we are
No,
getting
sir.
a carpenter. Yeah, suppose
No,
if
sir.
we are getting,
PPT is not visible. PPT is not visible.
okay, but I'll try. Even if you are not seeing the PPT, I'll explain it in a simple manner so that you will understand. We have roughly around maximum 45 minutes only, but I'll try to complete it in half an hour's time. So, when we were discussing the concept of disciplinarity, and I am trying to explain disciplinarity through an example. Think that we are bringing a carpenter into our classroom, and carpenter is attending to our lecture, and but at the same time carpenter may not be giving any attention to our discussions on disciplinarity and interdisciplinarity. So what will happen is that within no time the carpenter will see things around which are related to wood and carpentry work. He will find out what are the problems with or what are the peculiarities of various furniture that is there in the classroom, and who what kind of technique is used in preparing certain kind of wooden things in the classroom. Everything he will notice. Similarly, if you are bringing an electrician and asking him to be there in the classroom, the electrician will be doing the same thing. He will find out where there is a problem with the electric connection, or if the fan's switch is not working. Everything he will find out, because the carpenter or the electrician, they are trained in a particular way to see things in a particular manner. So disciplinarity, here you can see that when I am mastering a discipline, what ultimately happens is that I'll be trained in a particular manner, that I'll see things in a particular way. And I will, without any difficulty, I will understand things in that particular way. I'll be able to explain things in that particular way. So that is the concept of disciplinarity. And I am sure that you will be very clear about this concept by now. Because, whenever we are talking, if you are talking to a fish seller, and there is I normally use examples from movies when I teach, take classes and all. You can see that certain movies, you can see that in an interview board, if the board member happens to be a fish, a kind of a multi-millionaire who initially started with fish sales and all, his questions will be related to fish only, because he can see things only fish, everything related to fish he will bring in his discussions. If you are a flower seller, you will see things related to flower, and everything you can see from that point of view. If you are a chemist or chemistry person, you will see things from chemistry's viewpoint. Or if you are an economist, you will see things related to economics. So that is the issue, or that is the merit, or that is the demerit of disciplinarity. Now let us come to two concepts, that is multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity. When we are discussing about multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity, these two concepts are the most confused concepts related to, many academicians, even trained researchers, they use these multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity in an interchangeable way. Whereas interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarities are two different concepts. You can see, if you see the websites and all, I have done it for myself. If you see the websites of prominent universities, academic institutions in India and abroad, in many websites you can see this confusion that in one web page it will be written. It will be written that like we are following multidisciplinary approach. In another page or in the same page, it will be written that we are following interdisciplinary approach. Whereas multidisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approaches are slightly, not slightly, it is considerably different. So let me explain what is multidisciplinarity. If I am explaining multidisciplinarity and then I come to interdisciplinarity, probably like many of our concepts will be clear so that we can quickly go to the other slides and complete our discussions. Multidisciplinarity, I will explain you with a simple example. You think that like suppose you think about a situation like you may be knowing these Narmada Sarovar Valley projects and the environmental agitation around that particular thing, Narmada Bajao, Andolan and all these things you will be knowing. So then you think about that kind of a situation. If there is a dam coming and then there are lots of hue and cry about the implications of that particular dam project and all. And if the government has to intervene, what government will do is that normally government will appoint a kind of a committee, and government will appoint a committee in which there will be people or experts from different disciplines. For instance, the committee will have an economist. I'm just hypothetically telling, maybe my primary discipline is economics. That is why I am starting with economics. So committee will have an economist, committee will have a sociologist, committee will have an anthropologist, committee will have an engineer, committee will have an environmentalist. Like that, different persons will be there. Government will pick up people from different areas and put them together in a committee and tell that you go and work on this particular thing and understand what are the implications of this Narmada project. And then what will happen is that the committee is constituted, there will be a chairman or chairperson, and these committee members will keep on working that thing. I, as an economist, if I am a committee member, I will go and study about the issues related to like economic aspects of Narmada project. And I will prepare a detailed note where I will explain where is the break-even point, what are the economic benefits, how irrigation will be improved, and what are the benefits out of agriculture development, everything I will explain. And I will also explain what are the other negative economic impacts. If there is an anthropologist in the team, anthropologist will study about the if there is a kind of a community which is staying in Narmada area and that will be wiped out because of this particular program. All these things, the anthropologist will give more attention to what he or she is specialized on. And they will also prepare anthropological impacts on Narmada project. And the third one, suppose if that person is an environmentalist. So environmentalist will be bothered about flora and fauna around this project. What are the rare breeds of birds and butterflies and several other plant which are all affected by this thing. And the environmentalist will prepare a detailed note on the environmental impact of Narmada Bajao project. And from various disciplines, people will prepare their detailed notes and they will give to the chairman or chairperson. What will happen? That committee's report will have several chapters: economics of Narmada Bajao project, or environmental impact of like Narmada Bajao project. Like that, everything will be there. But what we can see is that will be a very comprehensive report. It will have all the details. But at the same time, economist will go as an economist and study the things, come back as an economist. The environmentalist will go as an environmental or biological sciences person, will go as a biological sciences person and come back. An engineer will go and do the studies, come back as an engineer. Anthropologist will go and come back, and anthropologist didn't have any kind of interaction with any other disciplinary persons. And the report will have all the things in a discrete manner. Everything will be there, but there is no, everything is standalone also. So that is the situation of multidisciplinary thing. So you can see that suppose if you want to study about this mobile phone. So what we are doing is that from one side you are approaching it from economics. One side, I am not talking about mobile phone, I am just giving a problem. And this problem I am seeing from economic side, I am seeing it from anthropology side, I am seeing it from sociology side. But we are not getting a perspective which is there any problem? No. Like each of us are getting this idea and we are keeping it together. That is the kind of multidisciplinary approach. So government committees are usually multidisciplinary in nature because there is not much time for the experts to come and work together and arrive at a kind of a gelled understanding of the thing. So now come to the concept of interdisciplinarity. Interdisciplinarity, you can see that interdisciplinary, there are two types of interdisciplinary things. Probably like you can go to the next slide, I will explain you what is the, can you go to the next slide? Let me see, there is one slide. No, that is not the slide. So you can go back to the previous slide. There is a slide coming. Interdisciplinarity can be in two ways. Interdisciplinarity, I will explain you in two ways, simple examples, so that you will be very clear that like what is interdisciplinarity. Think that suppose Saji, the organizer, the principal of this institute, think that Saji is an economist. And Saji wants to go in the interdisciplinary way in a personal manner. So think of a situation that like, in my view or my understanding, if you want to become an interdisciplinary person, the first and foremost requirement is that you should be very strong in your discipline. So suppose Saji wants to become interdisciplinary, and Saji, when he can become interdisciplinary, think that like if he is in a position that like he knows everything in economics or he is very thorough with economics, that can be the beginning point to my opinion. For instance, I'll come back to my certain anecdotal experiences. When I completed my BA in economics, I thought that I know everything in economics. And I was thinking that now only thing which I can do is that I can go and write a book in economics. Because I was perfectly sure that like I know everything related to economics. But when I did my MA, I could make out that I don't know certain things in economics. When I did my MPhil and PhD, my insecurity regarding the subject increased. So when I reached at higher levels, I was very convinced that I don't know much about this particular subject. So you think that can be the kind of a beginning. That means if you are in a position, if you are learning things, and if you are reaching at a level that you think that like you don't know much about that subject, we can consider that you have mastered that subject to some extent. So you think that like Saji has learned a lot of economics and Saji has learned a lot of things, and after quite a learning, he understood that he understood that I don't know much about economics. That is his beginning of the wisdom. And second thing, he understood that economics all alone cannot give me solutions. So somebody gave him an idea that why don't you study sociology also? Sociology is very, very connected to economics. And suppose, for instance, when I was doing my MPhil and PhD, I was working on labor studies, but I used only approaches like from economics only, because I'm trained in a disciplinary way. But when I joined as a faculty member of National Labour Institute, then I understood that you cannot understand things only by using economics. There are several things, several other subjects that will help you to understand labor. For instance, doing a research on labor without understanding that there are things like there is a like aspect or dimension of gender, there is a dimension of caste, religion, and all these things. All these things, if I am not noticing, actually my study on Indian labor markets will not be very meaningful. What I have been doing is that like I have been using my economics to understand labor market, supply, demand, and several other things. But in our economic theories, traditionally, we don't have any provision for caste, gender, and religion and all these things. So that means I realized that there is a need for studying, or Saji realized that there is also a need for studying sociology. So Saji started learning sociology also. Suppose when Saji starts learning sociology, in the beginning, somebody asked Saji that, are you a kind of, what are you, like, what is your disciplinary background? Saji will explain that I am an economist, but I know a little bit of sociology. After some time, if somebody asks Saji, what is your academic or disciplinary status? He will tell that I am an economist, but I know lots of considerable sociology also. So after some time, Saji will again tell that after several years or after many months work, Saji will tell that I don't know whether I am a sociologist or economist. So if Saji is reaching that level, I can tell that interdisciplinarity with two disciplines have started there. That means you have both the disciplines, but you don't know how to bifurcate the disciplines. Both the disciplines have gelled together in such a way that you yourself are not very sure whether you are an economist or sociologist. So let us see that that is the beginning of interdisciplinarity. And by that time, think about like, take it in a lighter manner. Don't consider it as a very serious academic discussion. Take it in a lighter manner. By that time, what will be Saji's age? Saji must have completed 40 by the time he became an economist fully. And by the time he became a sociologist, also it will be 50. And by that time, Saji's information matrix also like it will start shrinking because of aging and all. That means gradually he will not have that capacity to learn, but maybe he will, at the maximum, he will learn one more discipline properly. That means history or anthropology, or maybe one or two more disciplines. By that time, it is very, very difficult to personally gain interdisciplinarity. Because, and you know, many of us, most of us, we learn things, we get degrees, we do research, everything, not only for the sake of research and for not for the enhancement of knowledge. We also do things just to have certain other material benefits also. We want a job, we want to get married, we want a like house, we want all our things to get materialized. So we are living for certain other objects also. So it is not that like all of us are only working for knowledge creation. So that you can see that this individual way of learning things, there is a limit for that thing, and that is quite expensive also. Quite expensive, opportunity cost is very high. So there are lots of issues. But there is a most popular way of becoming interdisciplinarity. That is what has happened in my case as a researcher. Because, you know, and that is a popular way you can see things in institutions. That means suppose you are an economist, you are joining a labor institute. That is what happened in my case. So what I could see is that I am working with sociologists, I am working with people from public administration, I am working with people from law background, the legal background. I am working with people who are from anthropology. I am working with behavioral scientists, and we are all working together on same topic, that is labor. So after some time, what will happen is that we will all work together, and after some time, even I don't know whether I am an economist or sociologist or a legal expert, because I will give equal attention to all the aspects, because we are working together and we are discussing on a day-to-day basis, we are researching on a day-to-day basis on a topic, and we are very continuously like we are working together and improving that thing. It can happen that like suppose if it is a water research institute, water is an interdisciplinary subject and it demands interdisciplinary treatment. If there is a sociologist working on water, sociologist will have lots of stories related to sociology of water. In India, you may think that what is the sociology of water? But in India, you know that if lower caste person is touching the water body, it is getting polluted according to certain kind of thing. So you can see that a chemistry person will have like what is the pH value of water, what is the content of water, everything. Chemistry person may be knowing. A sociology person will see water in a different manner. A literature person will explain water in a totally different way. Because water has several, like in literature, you can see lots of discussions on rivers and sanctity of rivers and romantic poetry. You can see lots of references about streams and rivers and samudra and all these things. So you can see that like an engineer will see water in a different way. So, but all these people, if they are continuously working together in an institution, what will happen is that after some time, most of them will become a kind of an all-rounder. They can use tools and techniques from various disciplines together and they can handle the thing. So these are the things like unidisciplinarity. I am sure that now you know what is disciplinarity and you know what is multidisciplinarity, this committee method, and interdisciplinarity where disciplines are merging together. You know, I'll briefly explain transdisciplinarity here, but I will continue with transdisciplinarity toward the end only. So transdisciplinarity is a situation where you are even transcending from the disciplines. After some time, you think that you don't have to have disciplines also. You may take some inputs from disciplines, but you will transcend to a different plane where you may even use things which are not amenable to any of the disciplines. You may take information or you may take insights from various other fields which may not be necessarily related to the disciplines that you have begun with. So that means it will be having disciplinary understanding, but it will also transcend from the disciplinary borders. Anyway, let us go to the next one more point, and then I think half of the presentation is over because this introduction is over. Then we can quickly go and find out like what are the other contents. You can see that like if you see the beginning of a learner, that means a small kid, they are learning. You know, you can see that when they are going to play school or something, we don't give them any discipline. That means they will learn everything from the nature. They will play in the play school. They will keep on understanding from the nature. But after some time, what will happen is that we will gradually introduce. We will, yeah. Is there any question or something? Yeah, you know, after some time, what will happen is that like we will gradually introduce disciplines. This is maths, this is social EVS, this is social science, this is English, this is Hindi. Earlier, that kind of distinction was not there at the beginning. So beginning is without any discipline. But after some time, we will discipline. And when we keep on disciplining, we will go to various kinds of specializations also. But after doing everything, specializations, understanding a discipline properly, what will happen is that we will gradually go towards interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity. That means beginning and ending of knowledge pursuit is something like lack of disciplines, or indiscipline is the beginning and end. And also we will be very, very indisciplined. Beginning also we were not having any disciplines. So I have completed the introductory discussion. Now we can increase the pace in terms of changing the slides. Can we go to the next slide? And I hope that you are understanding. There is no doubt or something. If there is something, you can send a thing. So I'll just keep on explaining. You know, you can see that like there is one point where we can see that is not, see this quote, that is not relevant, that is sociology, and we are in an economics class. This kind of discussions you must have heard several times when you are participating in a particular webinar or participating in a particular training program. People must have told you like this, I am not attending the next session. That is sociology. I am not interested. I am doing econometrics. Why should I learn sociology and all? And this we have seen. So I'm just reminding you that we have this kind of an inertia, a disciplinary inertia, that okay, why should I know sociology? Why should I know anthropology? Or why should I know nanotechnology? Because I am no way related to nanotechnology. So why should I know? But an interdisciplinary person's journey, you can always see that we will always keep room for other disciplines and other perspectives. If there is a room for other disciplines and other perspectives, we are ready to be interdisciplinary. We'll keep on changing, and the change itself is the learning. You know, we are transforming. An interdisciplinary person is not a static person. An interdisciplinary person is a dynamic person. So let us go to the next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So, you know, this slide we want to quickly skip because, you know, basically interdisciplinary research is something where like we are using tools and techniques and perspectives of more than one disciplines. We are blending it together. We are merging disciplines in the pursuit of a common task. So next one. Next slide. Yeah, here also we can see that there are many problems. There are many problems which are not amenable to only single disciplinary treatment. So if that is the case, what we will do is that we will not consider disciplinary limitations. We will use tools and techniques from various disciplines to understand that problem. For instance, there is a list given: irrigation, water studies, climate change, issues related to health, food security, sustainable development, gender issues, social inequality, several topics. All these topics, we know that we cannot study all these things using economics, sociology, or history. All these things, we have to have everything together. We may have to have economics, sociology, history, and several other humanities, disciplines from humanities together to understand these kind of issues. So that is the utility of idea. Please go to the next one. Yeah, I have again listed. You can see that water, AIDS, climate change, global warming, conflict, COVID-19. For instance, suppose if somebody wants to study about COVID-19 or AIDS, what are the implications of these things? I don't think that economist can fully understand COVID-19 or a doctor can fully understand COVID-19. Doctor may be knowing about vaccine and all the medical related aspects. Economists may be knowing economics related aspects of COVID-19, how it is impacting the economy, how supply chains and production chains are affected, what will be the case of unemployment. All these things economists will be knowing. But a psychologist may be knowing the trauma of the people who are undergoing this kind of thing, social exclusion, all these kinds of issues may be like we can understand. So if we want to understand COVID-19 and its impact, it is a truly interdisciplinary subject where we have to have several lenses together to understand what is the impact of COVID-19. And you can see several other studies also, like cultural studies, women studies, urban studies, labor studies, development studies. There are many other areas also. I am just giving indicative things. There is a rule of thumb. It is not a perfect rule, but you can see that many interdisciplinary areas are having the studies as suffix. That means cultural studies, women studies, and you can see that whereas many other established disciplines are having biology or certain kind of other kind of suffix. And studies is, but it is not, I am not claiming that that is always valid, but more or less you can see that in social sciences at least, many words, many areas which are ending with the studies are there is a high chance that it will be interdisciplinary in terms of interdisciplinary approach will be more useful for understanding these concepts, these areas. So next one. Yeah. So we can see that, there is a quote from Karl Popper, and Karl Popper has explained that we are not students of some subject matter, but we are the students of problems, and problems may cut across the borders of various disciplines. So Karl Popper was telling that we are not disciplinarians or we are not disciplinary persons. Rather, we are students of studying problems. So if we are going for this kind of if our aim is to understand problems, then we are not bothered about this kind of disciplinary boundaries and all. Next one. Yeah. It's very interesting from Gary D. Brewer. The world has problems, but universities has departments. You can see that most of the universities, at least until recently, I'm talking about till late 90s, most of the Indian universities, we had only departments, Department of Economics, Department of Commerce, Department of these things, all these interdisciplinary subjects, development studies or social exclusion, gender studies, all these things started coming only from late 90s and all. So universities had departments, but the world has problems. And if you want to study problems, we want to have interdisciplinary approach. The next one, we can see that it's a very interesting quote from a very interesting person who practiced interdisciplinarity or even who practiced transdisciplinarity. Let us see the quote and then please guess who is the person. The expert or specialist knows more and more about less and less until he knows everything about nothing. You think about a specialist will keep on specializing things, and ultimately that person may be knowing everything. After MBBS, okay, you will specialize on ophthalmology, and after ophthalmology, you will specialize on a particular aspect of eye related problems, and then you will further specialize and you will keep on specializing until you know everything about nothing. And probably you may be knowing who quoted this thing. Yeah, Krista Cardoso is telling Nicholas Butler's quote, but at least popularly even in Indian context, this quote is always related to, you can show the next slide. Next slide. That is, this quote is normally related to Mahatma Gandhi. At least in Indian context, if you Google and find out, you can see that many times this quote is shown related to Mahatma Gandhi. But whoever it may be, it may be that same idea, somebody must have explained it in certain other context. But
actually evolved during the industrial era as a result of much scientific management studies.
okay. Hello. Yeah, somebody was telling something. I was not clear, but my idea is that okay, this is, I have given it as a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and it may be the same quote or same content must have used by several other persons also. The idea is that normally when you are becoming an expert, you are giving more and more attention to a specific area, and probably you are not aware or you are not giving much attention to the other aspects. So coming to the next slide, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. This I have already explained. You can see that disciplinarity is one chashma, that means one spectacle. And multidisciplinarity where you are using different lenses, but there is no confluence happening. There is no mixing happening. And interdisciplinarity, here you can see that in interdisciplinarity, that yellow portion, you can see that both disciplines are merged in that yellow portion. And that is an interdisciplinary thing. There, neither purple is there, nor green is there, it is only yellow. And the transdisciplinarity thing, you can see that merging has happened, but the learning has gone even beyond the boundaries of the particular disciplinary boundaries. So you can see this is a kind of a like pictorial representation that is available in the internet. I have given the image source also. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. Now, this also we have explained. You can become interdisciplinary in two ways. One is an individual way, the other one is an institutional way. And when IGNU in 2009, IGNU started, Indira Gandhi National Open University probably started the first school on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary studies. I happen to be the first faculty who joined in this particular center. And then probably because of my requirement, I spent a lot of time reading about what is interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, how it is understood by different academicians, different theoreticians and all these kind of things. But during that time, accidentally, I read a kind of preface written by M.N. Srinivas in his 1971 book on social change in modern India. And in that book preface, in one paragraph, in M.N. Srinivasan's book on this social change in modern India, in one paragraph, he has very clearly explained what is interdisciplinarity and what are the two ways of becoming interdisciplinary in one brief paragraph. Whatever I have been communicating for the last 45 minutes, M.N. Srinivas very meticulously covered it in one paragraph. So I would urge some of you, if you have an access to M.N. Srinivas' book, read his preface. There is a very interesting paragraph on interdisciplinarity. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, some metaphors we can use. Think about this fruit bowl metaphor. That means, this is something like multidisciplinarity. You have a fruit bowl, you have everything inside that thing. For instance, where is apple? Apple is there, cherry is there, grapes is there, plantain is there, everything is there in the mixed fruit salad. So this bowl of fruit is something like multidisciplinarity. Everything is there, but you can bifurcate. You can see apple, you can see orange, you can see grapes. There is no kind of a mingling happening. Everything is there. So that is a metaphor used normally for explaining multidisciplinarity. Let us go to the next slide. Yeah, this is a metaphor used for explaining what is interdisciplinarity. Here in this one glass of juice, if you take a spoonful of juice, mixed fruit juice, you cannot see which is apple or where is orange. Everything is there, but at the same time, you are not in a position to bifurcate. So when you are becoming truly interdisciplinary, like Saji told, after some time you will tell that I don't know whether I am a sociologist or economist. In labor related areas, there is a researcher, well-known researcher called Jan Bremen. I don't know whether Jan Bremen is a sociologist or historian or economist, because even Jan Bremen may not be knowing whether he is an anthropologist, sociologist, or a historian or economist. He started as an anthropology, social anthropology student or a sociology student, but he ended as a kind of an interdisciplinary labor studies research person, and he himself may not be knowing whether he is a historian or a economist or an anthropologist or a when we also in academics also, I work on labor studies, and I may get a thesis for evaluation, or I may be in the committee of guiding a student from a management stream, maybe from a sociology stream, from an anthropology stream. The common thing is that all of us are working on labor studies, and no one thinks that after some time, no one thinks that it is like this person is from economics or that person is from sociology. and he or she can guide or evaluate dissertation of a particular student who is from that particular discipline only. So you can see that this compartmentalization vanishes, and like mixed fruit juice, we will gel together. So come to the next one, next slide. Yeah, you must be knowing this fable of 4 men and the elephant. That means 4 blind men, they met an elephant, or they felt an elephant, and they explained. For one person, the elephant, he touched the trunk and he thought that it is like snake. Other person thought that like it is fan, or third person thought that it is rope. The other person thought that it is a wall. So different kinds of understanding they got it. And then what ultimately happened is that after understanding all these things, all of them understood in their way, they understood it properly, but they all collectively understood it wrongly. See the next slide, go to the next slide. For instance, if we are reconstructing the elephant according to the explanation given by various people, we will get elephant of this sort. And this elephant and the original elephant is different. And the difference is because of the way of understanding things by different persons. So go to the next one. Yeah, this is this John Godfrey Saxe in 1878 has written the same thing in a poetry. And this poetry of these men of Hindustan disputed loud and long, each in his opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right and all were in the wrong. All these people who were disciplinarians or like multidisciplinary approach, if we are understanding to use the elephant, to understand the elephant, if we are using multidisciplinary approach, probably our faith will be something like this John Godfrey Saxe's poetry. Yeah, then come to the next one. You can also see that like this is another metaphor. I was telling that like, there are different ways of becoming interdisciplinary, but the best way, or the at least in the pursuit of knowledge, probably the most in my understanding, the best way of becoming interdisciplinary is that like you should not be bypassing disciplines to understand, to become interdisciplinary. Rather, first you should master a discipline. You should master discipline fully. Then only you can become a truly interdisciplinary person. It is like a banyan tree. Banyan tree, initially it will have a trunk or it will have a main stem, and that main stem is your discipline. But after some time, you will grow and you will get strengthened. And after some time, your prop roots will come. Prop roots will naturally come. When I learn economics properly and understand my subject properly, then I will realize that only economics will not fully give me the truth. So I will keep on understanding other things, and I'll gradually use all the other disciplines. So like prop roots, many other prop roots will come. After I understand economics properly, sociology, history, anthropology, different prop roots will come. And it can happen that after some time, I'll have several prop roots, and these prop roots together will anchor me, and I may have, even if my main stem is not functional, or like my main body is not there, prop roots will support me. So it's a kind of like interdisciplinarity will also give you lots of anchorage. That means even without your proper discipline also sometimes you can exist, because your interdisciplinary understanding will support you. So go to the next one. Yeah, this is also like equivalent to taking off a aircraft. It's not that like one fine day you can become interdisciplinary. The best thing is that like in order for an aircraft to take off, you have to first acquire momentum on the ground. After acquiring the momentum on the ground, the adequate momentum on the ground, the takeoff will gradually happen, and that takeoff will be safe takeoff. So you can see that like it's a kind of like aircraft taking off. That like first you have to master your discipline and then take off, then become interdisciplinary. If you have a mind to accommodate other perspectives, if you have a mind to accommodate other ways of understandings, then gradually what will happen is that the takeoff will happen and you will become truly interdisciplinary. So, you know, all these things are interesting aspects of interdisciplinarity. Now let me go to some complications related to interdisciplinarity also. Go to the next slide. Yeah, okay. This also like, you know, if you see the approach of interdisciplinarity, you can see that interdisciplinarity is something like breaking the disciplinary silos. We are all sitting in departments and silos. So interdisciplinarity is breaking of silos. And you can see that there are methods like earlier we will think inside the box, and after some time with more learning, we will think outside the box, or we will mix from different boxes. And after some time, as in the case of transdisciplinarity, it can also happen that you will also think that you don't require any box also. You don't require any kind of a disciplinary binding, because you will even transcend to a level that you don't have to have any box, and you will go beyond that thing. So next, go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So what are the advantages of interdisciplinary research? I will quickly conclude because I have already told all these things. One, it sorts out the settles the, or it overcomes the drawbacks of unidisciplinary approach. It will avoid the harmful effects of specialization. It will present the conversations and connections. It provides us the benefit of different perspectives. It dissolves the academic boundaries. It appreciates or accommodates differing perspectives. All these things are good. So let us go to the bad things. Yeah, next one. Yeah. What are the disadvantages? When you are becoming interdisciplinary, it can happen that you will gradually get disconnected from your specific discipline. For instance, when I was doing my MPhil and PhD at Center for Development Studies, I was more rigorous economics person. But gradually, now I don't think that my classmates and colleagues and my teachers in CDS, they may not be considering me as a serious economics researcher. Even I don't consider myself as an economist. I used to start my sessions introduction telling that once upon a time I was an economist. And that is right, because, you know, I have got detached from economics. I have married to interdisciplinarity, and I am more interested in understanding about labor and all. If somebody asks me basic economics things, I may not be even knowing that, because that's not my interest. My interest is understanding labor, and for understanding labor, I understood that I have to have this interdisciplinary thing. So I may not be knowing basic things related to economics, whereas my qualifications are all in economics. So that is the issue. So next one, you will find that you are jack of all trades and master of none. Not next one. I am talking to the next previous slide only. Sorry. Yeah. And then you can see that like you are becoming jack of all trades but master of none. And sometimes you can also see that, like, you know, I have been for the last 10 years, I have been working with various interdisciplinary schools. And I was working in Interdisciplinary Institute for about one decade earlier also. But last 10 years, I am working on interdisciplinary schools. And here also you can see that sometimes some members, even if they are in an interdisciplinary team, they will not become interdisciplinary. They'll tell that I am an historian working in development studies school. I am an economist working in school of interdisciplinary studies, because you will remain stuck in your old discipline. Some people, they may not be able to come out of their discipline and they cannot become that interdisciplinary thing. And in various teams also, interdisciplinary teams also, there is a disciplinary inertia, and disciplinary inertia will pull you back to your discipline, and you will not be able to escape from your previous disciplines and become interdisciplinary. You can see that some researchers, they cannot come out of their economics modeling, or they cannot come out from their typical way of historical analysis. They will not be open for any other things. So that is a kind of thing. So you can also see that many times when you are working on interdisciplinary things, people will consider you as a soft person, you doesn't have any rigor, you are ideologically motivated and all. You know, after becoming interdisciplinary, like I must have written an article about like analyzing a story, or discussing a dream, or discussing a wall poster that I have seen, or comparing two photographs. But if my original economics classmates and teachers see that thing, they won't consider it as serious enough. They'll think that, okay, there is no NSSO data, there is no census data, there is no serious modeling effort gone into that thing. And Babu is bringing two old newspaper clippings and discussing and writing an article. So that is my way of analyzing, but my discipline's way of analyzing is different. And they will consider me as soft and lacking rigor or ideologically motivated. Next one. Yeah, and you can also see that interdisciplinary methodology requires lots of autonomy. In a university, in an educational institution, if the institution is treating you on a par with other disciplines, you will fail, because interdisciplinary things means experimentation. It means going through roads not taken. That means different approaches you will take, non-conventional methods you will take. Sometimes you won't get ready-made results immediately because you don't know your path, where are you heading to. So it's a kind of like, so you should have sufficient autonomy. And many a times interdisciplinary research is less rewarding. Many of the journals are from disciplinary background. Now recently only interdisciplinary journals have started coming up. Many of the funding opportunities are coming from a disciplinary manner. For instance, like I applied for a funding for a labor research related studies, and then there was an option that like which stream you are applying. I applied for interdisciplinary stream. After some time, they telephoned me and told that there is no interdisciplinary stream. So from your biodata, we can understand that you are an economist by training. Can we put your application in economics? Then I told that please don't put it in economics, it is not economic study. Then they told that, but we don't have interdisciplinary studies. And I asked them what are the other streams. They started explaining other streams. One stream which was slightly related to labor studies, I could find out was management studies. So I told that please put it in management studies, because management studies is looking at labor from the other viewpoint. Maybe more same things they are seeing from a different perspective. But you can imagine the situation where I am going with my labor studies proposal to management experts. And what will be the fate of that kind of a proposal evaluation? So your funding, your journals, your promotion. I remember like in interviews where interviewers known to me earlier, they were explaining me that, look, Babu, we are not discussing about labor or interdisciplinarity. This is a position for economics professor's post. So please explain your economics. And if I am explaining my economics, I won't even get an assistant professor's job, because my economics is very weak, I know, because I have long forgotten basics of economics. And I don't want to do economics also, because I have become more interdisciplinary and I am more inclined to do interdisciplinary research only. So you can see that funding, journals, finding resources, everything, you can see that thing. And go to the next slide. You know, the dilemma of the interdisciplinary researcher is like this. You must be wondering, what is this beautiful photograph? I can tell you a story in the sense that you must be remembering the story of three wise men, Magi, who visited Jesus Christ immediately after Jesus Christ was born. The infant Jesus was born in Bethlehem. So these three wise men, about the dilemma of the three wise men, in English, T.S. Eliot has written a very interesting poetry, and that poetry is, next slide, Journey of the Magi. Journey of the Magi, and here he is explaining the dilemma of the three wise men. Three wise men were debating that they understood the reality after seeing Jesus Christ. They understood the reality, they understood what is the ultimate truth, everything. But while they were returning to their kingdoms, they were not very sure that whether they will be able to convince their countrymen about what they have understood. So this dilemma of Magi, that means these wise men, that is the dilemma of the interdisciplinary researchers. Many a times we understood things properly, but our university, our colleagues, our existing systems may not be understanding us properly. So interdisciplinary way is not a very easy way, but interdisciplinary way is an essential way where maybe after attaining your degrees, after meeting the basic requirements, everything, gradually your prop roots will come. Your prop roots will come and you will become interdisciplinary if you are really in the pursuit of research and you are really in the pursuit of problem solution in your own way. You will gradually become interdisciplinary, and it will happen. But because of the structural problems, because of the institutional requirements for you, it may not be very easy, especially for the researchers. It may not be very easy to become interdisciplinary. I still remember that, like, when I prepared my PhD dissertation, by that time I have converted to interdisciplinary stream. But when I gave my dissertation to my supervisor, who was my MPhil supervisor also, he told me that, like, Babu, your MPhil I was more comfortable because it was more economics. Your PhD, I am not very comfortable. It may be good, but after all, you are submitting it to JNU for a degree in economics. So where is economics in that thing? And you should have economics, more economics in that thing. So in order to convince the requirements, what I did is that I added a chapter which has lots of economics in that thing. So that kind of interdisciplinary compromises you may have to do, in the sense that initially your discipline is important, and from your discipline you can become gradually in discipline by going in the disciplinary way. So next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So, but when you are moving from your discipline also, if you are deviating from the common stream, normally if somebody is deviating from the common stream, they will be punished and they will be penalized. So it's not a very easy thing also. Block thinking is very strong in academics. If you are deviating, there will be issues also. And any systematic questioning of the accepted disciplinary ideology will be seen as heresy and may be punished by expulsion. There is an interesting article by Becker, Academic Tribes and Territories. So he is explaining that if you are not in one block, all other blocks will combinedly, like they will attack you also. So it's not very easy path. So next one, only two or three small slides only. Yeah, so you can see that complementarities are there, like disciplinary complementarities we have to understand, and then we have to club it together. We have to provide interdisciplinary way provides rich information, and it also gives back the discipline also. When people are becoming interdisciplinary in one way, we are also bringing back lots of information to our own disciplines. You think about tools or techniques from sociology or anthropology, like ethnography. Now ethnography emerged in anthropology, but it is now used in all social disciplines, ethnography. So you can see that interdisciplinarity also strengthens in both ways. Disciplines will get strengthened, and from disciplines, interdisciplinary approaches will also get strengthened. So we can see that we have, if you have an academic home, a proper academic home, and then you are trying to become interdisciplinary, that is the best way of bringing in complementarities. Next one. So what are the prerequisites in order to become interdisciplinary? You have to have a freedom to fail. That means you should not have the same rules and regulations and points for journal articles and all these things in the similar way for the other disciplines. You should be given a kind of a flexible situation where you have a freedom to fail also, experiment and fail. You should be ready to innovate. You should be ready to work with non-conventional data, non-conventional ways, and you should be willing to select roads not taken. There are, when you are selecting a road not taken, you are not very sure that whether you will reach in a destination in a stipulated time and all. But at least you will be thrilled that you are selecting the less passerby. That is it. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed quite a lot talking to you. Imagining that you are all listening to me and looking at my face only, but thinking that there are several people listening and understanding. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this insightful lecture.
Such a wonderful speech. Now it's time for participants can make their observations, queries by themselves. If anybody speak your time.
Yes, sir. The interdisciplinary approach is followed in the profession or industry as well, as I am from that oil and gas industry. So, for reservoir engineer, they recruit master of physics, master of chemistry, master of mathematics, mechanical engineer, petroleum engineering, and geophysicist. So even the multidisciplinary approach is required in the profession and in the industry as well. So I appreciate this multidisciplinary approach.
Yeah, I fully agree your observation. That means in various institutions also, like they are selecting people from different backgrounds. But interdisciplinarity, even if it is designed in a multidisciplinary way, when there is an opportunity for people from different disciplines to work together continuously, even without them knowing, interdisciplinarity will naturally come. That is the merit of working in institutions or long-term projects where people from different disciplines are working together. Because, for instance, in one of the universities, when I was discussing with the faculty members regarding interdisciplinarity, they told that our university also, it is very interdisciplinary in nature. For instance, if you go to School of Social Sciences, all faculty from different disciplines are sitting in without any kind of bifurcation. That means one room there is a historian sitting, another room there is a sociologist sitting, another room somebody else is sitting. But in my understanding, except during the tea time and canteen time, there is no interdisciplinarity will happen, because they will sit as historians and sociologists and anthropologists separately, and they will do their work. But if 4 persons from different disciplines are sent together, if 4 of them are from different disciplines are sent together to a particular area to work together for 1 year and come back and report, then probably interdisciplinarity will start happening. So I fully agree that people from different disciplines are recruited, but it can become interdisciplinary if they are working together, actually in the true sense. Thank you.
Sir, I have a small query.
Yeah.
How can we solve national issues through educational researches? Somewhere in schools, we know that children give better ideas if we pose small, simple questions. But then those researches and those findings of the students ultimately do not reach the market, say industry wise, even the small solutions that they come up with. So how do we integrate those findings as scientific basis and solve the national issues?
Yeah. You know, all issues, like all issues that warrant interdisciplinary treatment, we should be open to accommodate all kinds of knowledge. It need not be coming from a formal academic discipline. It can come from ordinary people. It can come from kids. The idea can come from various things. So the ultimately in interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach, we are open to all kinds of ideas. So I was, usually if this particular class, if I'm dividing and like discussing it in different sessions, I usually used to tell that we now normally don't even give importance to indigenous knowledge and the knowledge by the community persons, knowledge available from informal sources. We normally don't give importance, and we give importance to which is scientifically studied, or which is studied scientifically in the sense that which is studied through a established discipline by a professor or everything. We will give lots of importance, but that is as good as, we have a kind of a understanding that like if something is jargonized and if something is presented in a complicated way, then only we will consider it as a serious information. For instance, at least several years before, now the situation has improved quite a lot. The meteorological department and all, they are providing better predictions nowadays. Earlier, during our childhood and all, if meteorological department is predicting that like tomorrow it will rain, for sure I don't have to carry an umbrella tomorrow because it will not rain. That was the situation. But during that time also, an Adivasi person or an indigenous person may be looking at certain signs in the nature, like the certain sounds in the nature, certain behavior of the birds and other animals. They may predict, and that prediction may be more or less correct also. So, but we have adopted a method that we are only accommodating information which is from established sources and established disciplines. For instance, some of the studies which we have done in Delhi related to labor was like looking at or just collecting information from walls, which is near a kind of a bus station or somewhere. Because, near a bus station or a railway station, the walls of the buildings, there will be lots of posters and lots of bills posted on that thing. So we have decided that, okay, for some time we will collect information from these walls. And these walls are also that is also storing public memory. And lots of information is coming on a wall in a common place. But if I am using
For
that,
example, I was more in terms of climate change. There are some helpful suggestions by students, like say cleaning of a river body, not say a pond body, and there are suggestions which really have implications that can help solve the problem. So, how do we reach those conclusions through the governmental bodies, uh, through school education?
I fully agree with your thing. How we find a solution from government's perspective is probably beyond my capacity to explain. But at the same time, you were telling correctly that like an environmental issue. Beg your pardon?
I want to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah. Just I'm just responding to Yadu Prabha's question. 2 days before from Kerala.
ಅದನ್ನೇ
Excuse-
ಯೋಚಿಸಿಲ್ಲ ಐಡಿಯಾ
Saida Fatima, please. Yeah, I am just coming back to Yadhuprabha's question regarding this environmental thing and all. 2 days before, from the jurisdiction of this MG University itself, like I was seeing, like I got a WhatsApp message. I also belong to Kerala, and I got a WhatsApp message, a Malayalam WhatsApp message, in which it is explained that like one of the prominent colleges in Changanasheri, SB College, they have taken care of the like environmental related issues, especially issues related to the weeds near the boat ferry boat stand and all these places, and they have, the college has taken an initiative that like they will protect the nature, they will regularly remove the weeds and all these things. Since I know that place and I have seen that place 2-3 times, I am not from Changanasheri, I am from Malappuram district, but I know this particular place very well. And when I saw the clippings and all these things, I was thinking that this is the way. Like they have brought in certain kind of interdisciplinarity, that they have limited their studies at the department level as an environmental or like biology related studies. Rather, their botany department and their other related departments, they decided that together they will go and clean this particular thing. Probably like this university is under MG University only. I'm sure it is an MG University college, and I'm happy to tell that like when I saw that particular thing and when I saw the clean water and how these weeds are removed and how regularly the teachers are going and doing that thing, I could see that there is an interdisciplinary way of addressing to community level issues. And same way, national level issues also. Sure, this is the like if we are fighting terrorism or if we are fighting social exclusion, this is the way, like using the community support, using the insights from students, we can bring in. So interdisciplinarity, we should not even like, we should work with activists, we should actually work with community persons. Then only like we will be truly doing interdisciplinarity, because we are open to, we want solution only. We don't want lots of insights and all. Sometimes the solution will be action. Sometimes the solution will be conceptualization and writing a paper. It can differ. But I am happy that you have flagged it, and I am not very sure whether I answered it properly. But yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. Saji, any other question? Or
I think attended.
Hello. Hello.
hello.
Yes, proceed.
I want to know that for the research purpose, which type of disciplinary action is best?
This is from whom? Who is the person who is asking?
I am Dr. Manish Bhatnagar, faculty in education.
Okay. In which university?
Jain Vishvarti Institute, deemed university, Ladnu, Rajasthan.
Okay, okay. Thanks. So basically you are asking that like what is the desirable course of disciplinary action in terms of like disciplinary course we have to pursue for becoming interdisciplinary. What I was explaining is that like my way of understanding, even interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, all these concepts are understood differently by different persons also. If you read literature related to transdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity, there are lots of confusions also. But my way of like as a teacher who has been working, I was working as a teacher. I have been working as a teacher from 1987 till today. 87 I started as a school teacher, and I am now working in a university, and I taught in 2 colleges again under MG University long back. With all my experience, what I could see that after seeing the students and after seeing the works prepared by interdisciplinary scholars and all, my conviction, my understanding is that those people who are purely like who are solid in terms of their disciplinary background, they will do better as an interdisciplinary researcher. So if you borrow that kind of an argument, we have to seriously question the recent trend of introducing interdisciplinary subjects at degree level. Many universities, in my own university also, and many universities, we can see that BA interdisciplinary studies, BA women studies, or MA or BA social exclusion, that kind of studies, it is there. Students are doing good, BA global studies and all, they are doing good and they are coming with good results and all. But at the same time, at least in my way of understanding, had I been designing these things, I would have strongly recommended that interdisciplinarity should start only after acquiring some maturity in one particular discipline. And I used to, I am normally accused of using very, very simple examples in classes. I used to always tell that, like, even now I am in Delhi for the last 22 years, and I have managed in Delhi, lived in Delhi. I don't have any problem. But even now, and my mother is 88, she is in Kerala, she doesn't know anything about Delhi, she doesn't know anything about university systems, she doesn't know anything. But if I have any tension, even now, I'll make a phone call to my mother and I'll talk to her. So basic thing is that, like, if I have a problem, I can go back to my parents and discuss. Whether they know it or not, that's a different thing. Same way, if you have an original discipline, if you have a strong disciplinary background, if you are confused, you can go back to your economics, you can go back to your sociology, you can go back to your history and find solution. But if you don't have anything to go back, you will be in a very confused situation, because you did BA interdisciplinary studies, you studied MA interdisciplinary studies. So all these kind of things, what will happen is that ultimately you don't have a parent discipline to go back and explain, like understand the thing. So having a parent discipline, strong parent discipline is the best thing that is the best course of action, and prop route will come if you are having a strong disciplinary understanding, and if you are working on a problem which warrants interdisciplinary research. After some time working on labor studies with economics thing, you will realize that without understanding sociology, how can I study labor? Without understanding the labor history, how can I study labor? So that means these are all prop routes, and that will automatically come. So the best way of becoming interdisciplinary is to become disciplinary. You become strong in your discipline and give 100% sincerity to your problems. Keep mind open, accommodate all alternative suggestions, whether these suggestions are coming from anyone. This earlier question, she was talking about climate change. When we discuss about climate change, I remember watching a movie from Malayalam, which is which is a national award winning movie which came in Delhi. Since I was in Delhi, I was fortunate enough to see it in City Fort when Indian Panorama was organized this movie thing. Movie's name is Chitrakural, that is kaleidoscope or something. And when we went and saw the movie, and that movie was about climate change, but there is not even a single discussion on climate change, but everything it communicated was related to climate change. There was poetry, there was good things, everything. And even without telling climate change, by explaining a story of a boy and his pet bird, that movie clearly explained what is climate change. So what we can see is that when we are matured enough, when we are specialized enough, when we are fully into our problems, then we won't bother that like whether the solution is coming from commerce or solution is coming from management, solution is coming from sociology or solution is coming from philosophy. I don't bother because I want solution and I am only interested in solution. I am not bothered whether there is a collapse of my identity based on discipline is happening. I am not bothered because I am not married to the discipline. I am married to the problem with which I am working. So that is what I think. It was a very good question and I enjoyed, at least I thought about it a little bit more. Thank you.
So some questions in the chat box.
Okay, but I couldn't concentrate on the chat box, but if someone can, on behalf of me, like,
I will reproduce, sir.
Yeah, some of the questions, some representative questions.
Yeah, ask that what we think about practical difficulties related to interdisciplinary subjects like development studies. Example, students of development studies are not able to write a UGC NET examination.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy that that is the exact thing which I am telling. In fact, today when I was thinking about examples, this example came into my mind also. Development studies students, they don't have a kind of a UGC NET examination. Social exclusion students, they don't have a UGC NET examination. So universities are thinking, or UGC or universities are thinking with a disciplinary approach, and they are introducing a interdisciplinary approach and evaluating everything like same norm is applied on all disciplines. And when I was explaining my dilemma as a labor researcher, if I want to get a funding, I had to give it as an economic study. And I know that it is not an economic study. So this is a large dilemma. So it's a kind of we are technically we are thinking about all these things seriously, but at the same time, certain practical issues are there. There is a need to address these practical issues. For the last several years, these development studies students are struggling for getting a UGC NET for them, and somehow they will write some NET examination in economics or sociology or history. Whereas there can be a interdisciplinary studies that which will be applicable for all interdisciplinary subjects like women studies, social exclusion, or terrorism, peace and conflict studies, or development studies. All these things together, at least there can be an interdisciplinary studies net with certain kind of electives within that thing. So I am very happy that you asked this question.
By uses Elkanor, can India export to Africa its educational model that help it to overcome obstacles to develop?
These are all very these are all important questions, but I don't think probably if any of us want to discuss all these things, we can continue through email or something, because it's a very education related question and skill related question. I personally find that there are lots of labor related issues now, more than importing and exporting labor power beyond borders. There are issues with this teleworking and offshoring and outsourcing strategy. Yeah. So there are lots of issues related to labor, skill, and all these things. But probably we will get derailed if we are discussing that too much. But thanks, it's a good observation. I'll think about it.
Okay, sir, shall we move to the session final?
Thank you, and I enjoyed quite a lot.
Yeah, welcome, sir. Participants, we are moving to the first day of 4 days webinar. Myself, Assistant Professor, School of Pedagogical Science, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kerala. My duty here is to express vote of thanks to all the participants. Honorable Higher Education and Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Mahatma Gandhi University, respected Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, beloved Head of the Department, School of Pedagogical Science, Professor Minikuti A, respected Dean, University, Professor Honorable Dean, School of Development, Ambedkar University, Delhi, Babu, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to one and all. We have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. It is the science. Today we hosted one of the biggest education webinars in India. More than 370 participants are attended the webinar. Huge success in itself. First of all, on behalf of the organizing committee of the webinar, I would like to thank our chief guest, Honorable Minister for Higher Education and Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Dr. Gandhi, for taking his precious time out of his schedule and consenting to inaugurate the webinar. Dr. K.T. Jalil at College Tirunelveli, and he taught me history of Western civilization. The people of Kerala are lucky enough to get such an academician as our Minister for Higher Education. Thank you. Your words are inspiring us. I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi University and the visionary leader, renowned academician, Professor Sabu Thomas, who graced us with his presidential address. Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your great words of able guidance has always encouraged us. A heartfelt thanks to respected Directorate of Minority Welfare, Government of Kerala, Dr. Maidinguti AB. He unable to attend the session, but I thank him for the support for organizing this webinar. I would like to thank our speaker of the day, Dean, School of Development Studies, Dr. P. Ramesh sir, for making an excellent and lucid presentation on introduction to interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary studies, and he made the webinar a very meaningful and interesting one. It was a very unique and wonderful session. I am sure that taken your observations. Thank you, sir. I must extend our deep sense of appreciation for the chairperson of the session, Head of the Department, School of Pedagogical Science, Professor Minikuti A, for chairing the session, and welcome address. Madam, your active contribution in this session is successful in making fruitful discussion on the interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary education. I thank this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to respected Faculty of Education for rendering her valuable support. And like this dimension cannot happen overnight, and it needs planning and vision, eye for detail. I cannot thank each one for their involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of the beyond their comfort zones. So I thank convener of the webinar Principal, Coaching Center for Minority Youth, Kayangulam, and Organizing Secretary of the webinar, Dr. Sibito, and Coordinator of the webinar, Dr. Muhammad KV, for taking the initiative for such a wonderful webinar. I thank my for their valuable support. I thank George of the webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record 30 thanks to and conduct management section of Mahatma. I have extended for the webinar. I take this opportunity to place on record our heart thanks to Mr. Sadish Kumar, section officer of and other supporting staff, research students, School of Pedagogical Science, for the support they have extended to all of us. Once again, I would like to express our honest thanks to friends from across the world who graced us with their thoughtful and dignified presence. We thank you for being with us today in this webinar. I want to mark their attendance in the link provided in the chat box. Thank you all. Thank you very much. We will be meeting at 3 p.m. Till then, goodbye. Take care.
Thank you.